Good morning and welcome to Breakfast with Dan Walker and Sally Nugent.
Headlines for you at 6 o'clock this morning. Good morning, it's Monday the 15th of June. Top story for you this morning. It's a day of major change in England as lockdown restrictions continue to ease this week. After almost 3 months, all non-essential shops in England, including clothing retailers and department stores, can reopen today if they stick to strict safety measures.
Meanwhile, if you're travelling on public transport in England, you will have to wear a face covering from today or risk a potential fine. Breakfast's Graham Satchell takes a look at all of the changes. Now, of course, it is important to say that these new regulations apply to England only. Let's run through the rules for the rest of the UK.
Lots to think about then at the start of this new week. Now, the boss of EasyJet has insisted he would feel 100% safe travelling on a packed plane. This comes as the budget airline restarts flights for the first time in 11 weeks.
Well, a limited number of planes will take off while passengers will be required to wear face coverings. Breakfast, Tim Moffat is at... Now, any passengers catching flights and those who do decide to visit the shops will need to maintain a 2-metre distance in line with government guidance.
It's been announced that the rule is under review. Countries including France and Denmark only require people to be 1 metre apart. Let's talk to our...
Now, several EU countries, including Germany and France, are reopening borders and lifting travel restrictions from today. Now, an image of one man carrying another to safety during violent protests in London over the weekend has been hailed as a symbol of unity after it was widely shared online.
Patrick Hutchinson was photographed carrying an injured man following clashes between far-right protesters and anti-racism activists. Our news correspondent Sean Dilley explains what happened. That's one of the extraordinary images of the weekend, wasn't it, to come out. Lovely to hear him speaking as well. Let's have a look at some of the papers for you this. If you have a look at the back pages of quite a few of the papers, one man is on there, Marcus Rashford, we need to help kids like me. Now today, I'm looking at a list, Sally, of things he's done during lockdown, Marcus Rashford. Yeah. His charity has raised £20 million and helped to feed 400,000 children. He's launched a campaign to help the homeless. For BBC Breakfast, he learned sign language to judge a competition. And also he supplied 3 million meals to vulnerable children in the UK. He's been a busy boy, and we have a TV exclusive. You went to see him yesterday.
Can I just say, first of all, he's 22.
I know.
You know, it's absolutely unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah, we have an interview with him, which I went to his house last night, spoke to him about something, the cause he believes really passionately in, which is making sure that children don't go hungry, particularly over the summer holidays, when any children who have been getting free school meals obviously won't be able to get them, and lots of clubs and summer schools will have been closed down. So it's something he really, really believes in. He's written to the government today a very powerful letter about his own childhood and how important meal vouchers were to him. So yeah, that's coming up. We're going to run that this morning on the programme.
I think we're going to hear a bit of it after 6:30, and then you'll see the full thing after 8:30 this morning. What else you got over there?
I love this. This is in the Mail today. Glove me do. Like that.
Good headline. If you've got a mask on, you can sort of go incognito a bit, can't you?
Brilliant. Think of that.
You've got a good one. What was yours? Glove me do. Here we go. I've got hatch of the day for you. Have a look at this. A couple found an egg. Clever, aren't they? The pair remained hopeful as they nervously kept watch over the egg. 2 hours later, to their delight, the shell cracked open and a duckling emerged.
That's like a fairy story.
It is, yeah.
I love it.
Now, wonderful Fluffy is a welcome addition to the couple's family. They live in Winchester, in Hampshire. I think, wasn't Winchester... was it last year? Winchester was the best place to live in the UK, wasn't it?
Spectacular.
There you go, and home of ducklings as well.
Exactly.
Fluffy the duckling.
Even random eggs have magical little surprises in them. Very, very quickly, I mentioned this yesterday, but actually I just love this. You know all the strawberries that we were going to... Strawberry glut. So all those extra strawberries are going to be made into jam.
One other one to mention. I know you said one other one, but I've got another one. This is lots of pictures of this. This is the Daily Express today, and it's on social media as well. But send them in, and we'd love to show some of those a little bit later on. Because there's been a lot of through the window.
Yeah.
That one that broke my heart from a few weeks ago. Do you remember where the birth of the little child, and the granddad only saw the child, and the parents took the kid up to... Oh.
I know. I think there'll be lots of new babies getting their first cuddles from their grandparents, won't there, for the last few days.
Send those pictures
to see that. Yeah, very much so. It is 19 minutes past 6. You're watching Breakfast from BBC News. Now, as non-essential shops across England are preparing to reopen their doors this morning, our experience on the high street is going to feel very different from life before lockdown.
In a moment, we'll speak to our consumers. I think we've been let down by the technology.
Never.
We were in Bishop Auckland there with Sarah Corker, having heard from Sean in Cheshire Oaks, where the shop's open at 10 o'clock today. We will try. Should we try again?
I think it might be working.
Let's have
give it
another go. Let's go back
Sarah.
to Sarah in Bishop Auckland. Let's try once more. Morning.
Don't move.
Abandon ship.
Yes.
Abandon ship. Right, should we try Carol? Carol, you can't. Don't
Carol.
move any part of your body, Carol.
Everything's all right in the world. If Carol,
you have rampant lettuce.
You've got rampant lettuce. If Carol says you can, you can.
All right, she knows.
Now, it is, you're watching Breakfast. It's 29 minutes past 6. You're watching with Dan Walker and Sally Nugent. We're going to bring you all the latest news and sport in a moment, but also on the programme.
Good morning. Here's a summary of the main stories for you from BBC News today. And all non-essential shops in England can open from today after almost 3 months. It's 6:32. It's time for our usual appointment with a GP at this time in the morning. And delighted. And I know we've had a few technical issues this morning. I know that Dr. Zoe was out of sync there, but hopefully you could hear and listen to what she was saying. Whatever.
Wise words.
Yeah.
She was talking again. I think a lot of people will feel like this. People are in two camps, aren't they? Some people are really maybe happy to go to their GP. Some people still staying away. Some people happy to go back into the shops. Some people wouldn't go in a shop today at all. And
you're talking about getting hold of face coverings as well. I remember, was it last week, I was having a little look on eBay, and people are obviously making their own ones now and then selling them. I think there was 5 for like £35. That double layered stuff that she was talking about. I know you can get them cheaper than that, but it's and if people are desperate to get hold of something, you can find yourself paying an awful lot of money for something you could make for a relatively small amount of money.
Yeah, and also we did it on the programme yesterday. We did a piece about how easy it is to make your own face coverings, and also you could wear a scarf and tie it. It's that simple, isn't it?
Pants on your head.
Pants on your head.
Yeah, something.
You do that.
Yes, OK. Right. Now, England and Manchester United striker Marcus Rashford has written a passionate and highly personal letter asking the government to rethink its decision to end free school meal vouchers in England during the summer.
Yeah, he talks about his own experience as a child. It's very powerful. Marcus says the system wasn't built for families like mine. Well, last night I went round to his house to hear about why this issue is so important to him.
He really cares about sound, doesn't he?
He does. He cares about it. He cares about issues that matter to him as a young black man in this country at the moment. And he speaks very passionately and from a place where, of course, he's totally informed because this was his childhood. He talks about being hungry as a kid. Later on, we're going to show you a longer version of that interview where he talks about growing up, going home and knowing that there was only so much food in the cupboard and they had to make it last a week. And, him and his siblings would be hungry.
And amazingly, they're saying that Manchester United took him at 11 because they normally take a young man like that at 12 because his mum couldn't afford to give him the food.
Yeah, exactly. So they took him a year early to help the family. I mean, he was obviously hugely talented, but in order to support the family and make sure that he got fed properly and, had the best chance of getting into their academy, they could see the talent in him and they, were very generous and decided to help the family in that way.
When lots of times when footballers sort of speak out, there's a reaction occasionally where people say stick to football. I think quite a few people are very thankful that Marcus Rashford during lockdown has not stuck to football and has made a huge difference to a lot of people. Yeah,
I should say that the Department for Education has told us the National Voucher Scheme will not run during the summer holidays, but thousands of children will receive additional support through their Holiday Activities and Food Programme, which offers free meals throughout the holidays. Marcus Rashford says about that, actually, because of COVID, lots of the clubs that he would have gone to as a kid can't open in the summer, so it's really challenging.
Sally mentioned about that interview later on. We'll see the full thing with Marcus Rashford after 8:30 this morning. And Jane is with us today with...
Not something we see very often from him. Don't see a little lip wobble from Novak very often. Dan has, anyway.
Yes, every day, Jane, every day. Thanks very much for that. See you a bit later on.
Now, in the next half an hour, the first EasyJet flight to depart in more than 2 months will take off from Gatwick Airport. The budget airline is restarting a handful of flights as lockdown restrictions are eased.
Things will look very different for anyone who decides to travel, though. All passengers are, of course, required to wear face coverings and there's social distancing measures in place.
Breakfast, Tim Muffet.
It's been 11 weeks, they say. 11 weeks since they've flown.
It does feel today like things are changing, doesn't it?
Yes, in England, big changes. Non-essential shops, well, they're still essential, aren't they? But you know what I mean, opening up. Lots of talk about face coverings, lots of talk about social distancing. There's still 2 metres here. We'll be speaking to somebody from the government about that and many other things at 7:30 this morning.
And we've been asking you to get in touch this morning with your pictures of loved ones after being reunited after lockdown restrictions were eased in England. We know not everybody can go in for the hug. Some people are still shielding. So we know that's lovely for lots of people. We also know there are lots of you at home who are not at that stage yet.
Yeah, and it's been an emotional weekend, hasn't it, for various people for different reasons. But thank you for sending those in. We'd love to get some more of those this morning as well. BBC Breakfast at bbc.co.uk, or you can send them through on social media.
Let's go straight to Carol. Good morning and welcome to Breakfast with Dan Walker and Sally Nugent.
Headlines for you this. Good morning, it's Monday the 15th of June. Top story for you today. It's a day of major change in England as lockdown restrictions continue to ease after almost 3 months.
All non-essential shops, including clothing retailers and department stores, can reopen today if they stick to strict safety measures.
Meanwhile, if you're travelling on public transport in England, you'll have to wear a face covering from today or risk a potential fine. Breakfast Graham Satchell has taken a look at the changes.
So these new regulations apply to England only. Let's run through the rules for the rest of the UK. So it's a complex picture, isn't it, across the whole of the UK. And of course, as we've been saying this morning, the rules around wearing face coverings in England have changed from today. They're now compulsory on public transport. And if you don't wear one, you might not be able to travel. You might even be given a fine.
Nina is at
Last few minutes, the boss of the budget airline EasyJet outlined to us the safety and hygiene practices in place to enable flights to take off for the first time in 11 weeks.
Yeah, the first EasyJet flight has just left Gatwick Airport. Tim Muffet. Well, any passenger catching flights, and if you decide to visit the shops, will need to maintain a 2-metre distance in line with government guidance.
It's been announced that the rule is under review. Countries including France and Denmark only require people to keep 1 metre apart. Let's talk now.
And we'll be putting some of those points that Chris was raising there to Paul Scully, who's the Small Business Minister, in about 20 minutes live on the programme.
Now, more than 900 blue plaques on buildings across London are to be reviewed by English Heritage in response to concerns that some honour figures linked to racism or slavery.
Now, from this morning, around 700,000 more teenagers in England will receive some face-to-face teaching at their secondary school.
Year 10 and 12 pupils who are sitting their GCSEs and A-levels next year will return to a very different classroom from the one they left in March.
We're joined now this morning live on the programme by the President of the Association. I talked to you this morning as well. And on that issue of Marcus Rashford and the provision of free school meals, you'll be able to hear our TV exclusive interview at 8:30 this morning, the full thing.
Coming up later in the programme. Now, zoos and safari parks in England are going to reopen to visitors from today.
After months of being unable to rely on ticket sales, many have really struggled with considerable costs for caring for animals and all that, everything else they've been thinking about during lockdown.
Yeah, breakfast, John McGuire. Lovely.
Zebras,
lovely to
tick,
see John.
ostrich, tick, drone
Who
shots.
needs a safari?
Well done, John McGuire.
Yes.
Now, non-essential shops in England will also reopen from today. We're talking about that a lot, but only those where it is able to, you'll be able to do it and manage to sort of follow all those government recommendations and do things safely.
Yes, plastic screens at the tills and floor markings to maintain social distancing form part of guidelines set out by the government. However, Labour says the advice for retailers isn't clear enough. We are joined now.
We're speaking to the Small Businesses Minister, Paul Scully, from the government in a few moments, but right now it's time to get the weather.
Good morning. This is Breakfast with Dan Walker and Sally Nugent.
Now, all non-essential shops in England can open from today after almost 3 months. Live on BBC Breakfast this morning, and also reacting to our exclusive interview this morning with Marcus Rashford, because you went to go and see him yesterday, Sal.
Yeah, we spoke at length last night about his campaign to make sure that children who are supported by free school meals continue to get fed through the summer holidays, because at the moment the government is planning on stopping that scheme during the holidays. The difficulty, of course, is during this pandemic, lots of summer clubs and activities that they might normally be going to and therefore get food from won't be happening. They will be closed. So now let's hear from Marcus Rashford himself. He has been explaining to me why this issue is so important to him.
He's a remarkable young man, isn't he? You could read that full letter as well. Marcus Rashford has posted that this morning. We've got quite a bit of the interview on social media for you as well. And some of the quotes from it. He says, political affiliations aside, can we not all agree that no child should be going hungry? It's a really powerful statement from a young man, as you found out, Sally. He's so genuine about trying to make a difference, isn't he?
Yeah, and it resonates, doesn't it? Because he talks about how he remembers being hungry. He remembers going home and knowing that they had to save bits of food that they had in the fridge, that had to last all week for them. He talks about going to a friend's house because his parents would be able to buy a bit more food, and he'd go a couple of times a week to have tea with them because they could afford to feed him a little bit more. It's really very, very powerful. And as Dan said, that full interview coming up just after 8:30 this morning. I should just say the Department for Education has told us the National Voucher Scheme will not run during the summer holidays, but thousands of children will receive additional support through their holiday activities and food programme, which offers free meals throughout the summer holidays.
It was a few months ago, wasn't it, that Matt Hancock was talking about footballers taking a pay cut, sort of intimating they should do more. I know lots of people, when footballers make a statement on social media and talk about something outside of their sport, they often get told to stick to sport. I think we should be very thankful that Marcus Rashford has done none of that.
He's ignored it all.
Ignored it all over the last few months and made a real difference to millions of children across the UK.
He really has. Interview coming up. Anyway, Jane is here with the rest of the sport for...
It's 7:47. The story of Dunkirk and the evacuation of tens of thousands of British and French soldiers from the beaches of France has been celebrated again this summer.
But few of us know the story of another group of little ships which sailed to rescue Allied troops in Normandy 2 weeks later. Their mission started on the Channel Island of Jersey, as Robert Hall reports. What an incredible story.
A bit of a history lesson there for us all as well.
Yeah, beautiful pictures as well.
It's 10 to 8 if you just switched on. Thank you for watching BBC Breakfast this morning with Sally and Dan. And the need to maintain a social distance of 2 metres in England is being reviewed by the government. We're just speaking to Paul Scully, the small business minister, a few moments ago. This follows pressure from MPs and the hospitality industry, who argue that allowing us to be closer together will help businesses once they reopen.
However, the government's scientific advisors say that being 1 metre apart carries up to 10 times the risk of contracting coronavirus.
We're joined now by, because I think you said 1 metre for both of those examples, but just to clarify that, you were saying 2 metres is 30%?
Yes, that's right, yes.
OK, thank you for clarifying that.
Dr Michael Tilsley, what is your view from a scientific perspective of moving the 2 metre rule down to 1?
Good to talk to you this morning, and thank you as well to Kate Nichols, who's the Chief Executive of UK Hospitality. Lovely to speak to you both. Thank you.
Let's go straight to Carol now, who always brings us the sunshine, even when she's talking. Good morning, you're watching Breakfast from BBC News with Dan Walker and Sally Nugent.
Here are the headlines for you, just gone 8 o'clock, back in business. Morning, it's Monday morning, it's the 15th of June. The top story for you today, it's a day of major change in England as lockdown restrictions continue to ease. After almost 3 months, all non-essential shops, including clothing retailers, department stores, can reopen today if they stick to those strict safety measures.
Meanwhile, if you are travelling on public transport in England, you'll have to wear a face covering from today or risk a potential fine. Let's talk to our politicians. In the programme this morning, we will be live at a train station. We're at Piccadilly Station on, we were at Gatwick Airport, we're at Cheshire Oaks Shopping Centre, also Bishop Auckland, to see the practicalities of how this is going to work if you are venturing out today.
Yeah, big changes, particularly in England, as we've been running you through this morning as well. Slightly different picture in Scotland, in Northern Ireland and Wales this morning. But as we were speaking to some of the guys from secondary schools earlier on, about an hour ago on the programme, it does feel like quite a significant step forward today for many people out there.
Yeah, correct. Now, several EU countries, including Germany and France, are reopening borders and lifting travel restrictions from today.
As we've been hearing today, non-essential shops in England will reopen their doors for the first time today, and that's a long time in coming, forced to close almost 3 months ago, of course.
Right. Yeah, for shoppers, the high street experience will be very different from life before lockdown. So what can we expect? In a moment, we're going to be talking to Sean, who is at Cheshire, in the next couple of hours. Yeah,
that opens at 10, doesn't it, this morning? If you've been wondering what the shops will be like today, first time in 3 months, as you mentioned. So people, as they are there in Birmingham, and there's similar pictures from Liverpool this morning, of people being desperate to get to the shops for the first time in a long time. And I'm sure others, Sal, will be watching that thinking, what on earth are they doing? There's no way I'm going anywhere near a shop. Greens at the till. And if you're not able to meet those government provisions, then you're not able to open. And that is what's happening in England today. As we said, I'm not sure how you feel about that. Do let us know. BBC Breakfast at bbc.co.uk is where you can find us, and we're also on social media. But that's a picture from Birmingham Primark, which opens a little bit later on this morning.
So really different looking retail picture, very, very different picture on public transport in England. Face coverings are now compulsory while some flights are resuming for the first time in months.
We're going to be at Gatwick Airport a little bit later, live at Cheshire Oaks and on a high street in Bishop Auckland this morning. And talking shops, there's been a lot of chat about these pictures this morning.
Yeah, one particular
email that's coming from Granny Sue. Granny Sue, good morning to you. Are people so desperate to shop at Primark to form queues early in the morning? No way, says Granny Sue. I will ease myself into shopping again at my own pace. I'm not... These pictures from Birmingham this morning. In fact, Primark is trending, along with, as it always does on a Monday, Morning Carol. So quick things to mention. One, we lost our BBC Breakfast clock earlier on today, didn't we?
Who lost it?
Well, I don't know. It disappeared. But as you can see, we have thankfully got it back. Sorry about that. I know that probably messed a few people up as you're watching this morning. The other thing, right, just wanted to read this letter, which some of you might have seen, sent into the Daily Telegraph. It's called Grandpa Never Dies, and this is what it says. I note that some are warning schools against the computer game Fortnite, saying it engenders aggression and violence. Well... He continues, I am a 74-year-old who likes to play and keep in touch with his 9-year-old grandson who lives 200 miles away. In playing the game, says John Evans from Ormskirk, I've come to interact with many of his friends who are caring and friendly towards the grandpa among them. I love this bit. They never leave me to die, are quick to attend to me when injured and give patient advice. Their politeness, comradeship, team spirit, humour and creative thinking would astound their parents, he says, let alone their teachers. It is a privilege to be counted among them. And he finishes off by saying this, believe me, this game has nothing to do with violence and everything to do with fun. John Evans from Ormskirk in Lancashire. What a lovely letter.
What a brilliant way to keep in touch with your grandchild as well. I think it's so easy, particularly at the moment when the kids are all at home, to be concerned about them spending time on games and that sort of thing. But we have to remember, lots of these games are actually about team building, aren't they? Strategy.
And as John says, they never allow Grandpa to die.
Stop it, you're going to make me cry.
It's great though, isn't it? And thank you. I got that. Frank Cottrell Boyce put that up on social media, so I picked it up off him. So thank you very much for some of the good stuff. Twitter can be a bit of a horrible place at the moment, but there are a few little positive lights in there which are making a difference.
And I think we're hopefully now going to share with you something that is quite positive and powerful.
Yeah, which has had a massive impact on a lot. I know a lot of people watching our exclusive TV interview with Marcus Rashford today. He, of course, plays for Manchester United, plays for England as well. And he's written a really passionate and highly personal letter to the government asking them to rethink the decision to end free school meal vouchers in England during the summer. And Sal's been to see him. Yeah,
I went to his house last night. He spoke about his own childhood and said, the system wasn't built for families like mine. And I asked him why this issue is so very important to him.
And that's exactly what he's doing, Sal. And watching him there, I mean, that's what 6 minutes of the interview we've just put out there live on BBC Breakfast for you. You can see why he's making an impact, not only in his own sphere, but far beyond that as well, raising over, what was it, £20 million over the course of the quarantine?
£20 million over lockdown, specifically for children who wouldn't be fed or for children who are eligible for free school meals. It's a really powerful statement from him. It's clearly something, you know, like you said, lots of people tell footballers to stick to football, but in this particular case...
Thanks for not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, Marcus Rashford, you know, he's talking about his own childhood. You could see there talking about being hungry as a kid, being taken on by Manchester United a year early because his mum needed the support.
Amazing,
by going to the club a year early, he would be fed, you know, bed and board by the club. So, you know, that extra support is something that his family desperately needs, and he talks about all the other people who helped him and the vouchers that were so important to him as a kid. I should just say we do have a response from the Department for Education who've said the national voucher scheme will not run during the summer holidays, but thousands of children will receive additional support through their holiday activities and food programme, which offers free school meals throughout the holidays. Also, they go on to say as schools reopen more widely and the kitchens reopen, we expect schools to make food parcels available for collection or delivery for any children that are eligible for free school meals who are not yet able to return to school. Where this is not possible, schools can continue to offer vouchers. Obviously, that's quite a complicated picture because if kids aren't in school, there's obviously a reason that they can't be there. So, you know, how are those food parcels going to be distributed?
Yeah, and I thank you for all the messages and emails that you've been sending through about Marcus Rashford this morning. I think it's having a big impact on social media. Lots of MPs actually retweeting his open letter, and you can read that full letter for yourself as well. One of the quotes from it: political affiliations aside, Marcus Rashford says, can we not all agree that no child should be going hungry? And if you see Make the U-Turn trending on social media today and wonder what that's all about, that's the hashtag that Marcus Rashford is trying to use to put a bit of pressure on the government to make that change. You'll also see Primark trending, but that's for a completely different reason.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Talking to him yesterday at home, as I was leaving him, I said, you know, what do you think is going to happen? How do you expect, you know, this to go? And he honestly doesn't know. He says, I don't know. They might not listen to me, but I just want to try.
It's sort of in a really positive way. I know we're talking about positively, but you look and at the end of all this, when we are back to normal, and people say, "What did you do during lockdown?" And Marcus Rashford can say,
quite a bit.
3 million meals for vulnerable children, £20 million raised, helping hundreds of thousands of kids. And he also you did something with him a few weeks ago. Didn't he learn sign language to judge a competition as well?
We're judging a poetry competition together, and he learned sign language almost immediately. I was terrible at it, and he just completely took to it like a duck to water, took it very, very seriously, because he wanted to go into the school for children who are deaf and hard of hearing and be able to communicate with them on their terms.
It's been great to hear from him this morning. I know lots of you enjoyed watching that as well. And even if you don't support Manchester United or you hate football, I think you can say well done to Marcus Rashford. And you can find the full interview on our social media channels, and I'm sure it will be across the BBC throughout the day as well. I'm
sure it will. Let's go to Jane now, though, who has some sports news for... Now, holidays, finances, life at work and at home is the new focus of a new consumer programme, Your Money and Your Life, which is going to start this morning at 10 o'clock right here on BBC One.
Sounds very relevant, doesn't it? It's a one-stop shop to answer all our questions, consumer-based, and we're joined now by the presenter later on. 10 o'clock today on BBC One.
You know what else is happening at 10 o'clock today? In lots of places.
Oh, yeah, the shops.
The shops are opening, and shoppers have been queuing for hours, waiting for non-essential retailers in England to reopen their doors for the first time in almost 3 months. I'm
not sure how you feel about watching people in queues this morning. Some people are desperate to get out there to the shops. Other people are watching the queues thinking, what on earth are you doing? Well, sure.
Not only that, can't find the right key live on television.
Yeah, I know, that's the thing. And I know when we showed the Primark pictures earlier, I know people are sort of thinking, what on earth is going on? But as Sean was making there, and you're speaking to some of those people in the queue, if you haven't been able to do much for such a long time, it's a big moment, isn't it, to be able to go to a shop and actually get out.
Just getting out, really good for lots of people mentally, I am sure. Getting out and about in the fresh air, let's have a look at what you could do today. Zoos and safari parks in England are going to reopen to visitors from today.
After months of being unable to rely on ticket sales, there have been a lot of struggles over considerable costs of caring for hundreds of animals. Well, John Maguire is... quite a few people have been enjoying the desperate search for the key this morning. I
hope Longleat have got the right key as well.
Yes.
It's been a long time those gates have been closed. And it's also been a very, very long time for lots of people who haven't been able to see their loved ones. You've been sending in your pictures of being reunited after lockdown restrictions were eased in England. Let's have...
For your comments, and we'll be back tomorrow with the latest on that gate situation at Cheshire Oaks as well.
Hopefully they'll all be in by now, See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.